What's up, YouTube? We're a couple of cunts. We're in the countryside. We're talking about the blues. The blues is pretty much the foundation of modern music as we, know today, isn't it?
Mississippi Delta blues started from there.
After your classical and baroque and whatever else, it was blues and jazz really that's laid the groundwork for, music as we know it today. You had people like Buddy Bolden, who, is pretty much responsible for whatever you're listening to today, and from there people like T-Bone Walker. And
we just think though, like how much older some of that could be. I mean, a lot of the blues is the old slave music.
Well,
it's even older
that is where it started. Yeah.
He wasn't the original blues person, but as everybody knows, story of Robert Johnson, very, very underrated when he began, or depending on who you talk to, very, very non-talented, and then suddenly seems to get very, very talented overnight. And the theory is he sold his soul to the devil. If you take your guitar to a crossroads at midnight, you're apparently approached by a tall, slightly mysterious stranger who will tune your guitar for you and give it back to you. You'll then be able to play like an absolute demon. The only problem is when you die, he owns your soul. Not a lot of people know when Robert Johnson died, he was barking like a dog on all fours.
Yeah, that was probably due to the Sith rather than any deal with the devil.
Well, he was apparently a notorious adulterer, and someone poisoned his whiskey because he'd slept with his wife. But certainly a very strange story. And the guy, I think, recorded 22 songs in his life, and someone to record 22 songs and have such a big impact is, it says something.
That definitely does. That paved the way for everything, rock and roll. Chuck Berry wouldn't exist without the blues, same Elvis Presley. From there, the Who, Queen, all those guys.
Yep.
And yeah, people like Led Zeppelin and
Black
Sabbath, the blues influence in them is,
there's
ridiculously apparent. I mean, blues and rock have, become sort of intertwined with bands like the Allman Brothers and Lynyrd Skynyrd and, clutch bands that have a very heavy blues influence.
Skynyrd as well. I mean, just to show you how wide blues can be, Skynyrd had, they were even slightly more of a country aspect to them. It just goes to show how, how varied and brilliant the blues is. You can intertwine it with so much other stuff. Blues,
jazz, funk,
jazz, everything.
Country, everything. Yeah, well, that's how influential blues is. Its influence can be felt in practically every musician and every kind of music that's come since.
Especially, I mean, I know there is other instruments and stuff with it, but certainly the main thing you really think about blues is guitar playing. And, the blues scale is pretty much not always the first scale you learn. Usually the first scale you learn on the guitar is the minor pentatonic scale. The second scale you'll learn is probably the blues scale, and that's one note different from the minor pentatonic. And those two scales are in literally any music theory book you could pick up that's been written in the last, I'd say, 50 years probably.
But even music that doesn't heavily feature the guitar, like even dance and rave and dubstep, you can still hear blues influences in the drum work.
That blues turnaround, the sort of blues shuffle, the 12-bar blues progression is you can find that in so much pop stuff, even if they're not actually using, say blues chords or something like that, which are also very, very simple. But even if they're not using that, the number of pop songs that have got the 12-bar blues, phrasing in, it's really quite impressive just how widespread it is.
Yeah. Your average Nicki Minaj fan probably isn't, even going to have heard of the blues, but their precious little bitch wouldn't exist if it wasn't for that. Yeah, the blues has seen a bit of a re-emergence recently. I mean, back in early 2000s there was that big garage rock revival, and I mean one of the bands at the forefront of that was the White Stripes, who are,
Jack White is very much a blues man.
Jack White's probably the most prominent blues musician working today. I mean, like Stevie Ray Vaughan, he got his start in the 80s or something.
He was originally in the 70s. Didn't really get much luck there. In the 80s he was doing quite well, and David Bowie asked him to be his guitar player, and he said no. Fortunately, he almost died from drugs sort of about mid-80s. He got cleaned up, started releasing some really good stuff again by the end of the 80s, and then was killed in a helicopter crash in 1990, which is such a shame because he's probably my favourite blues player.
And then, yeah, I mean, there's people like C6 Steve, who's gotten quite big now, and obviously he's, your classic blues man. He uses the diddly bow, and his guitar's only got 2 strings, for Christ's sake.
I thought he had 3.
Well, it did have 3, then he broke one.
Really? Oh wow.
He snapped a string.
See, that's kind of like 3 strings. I think that's a reasonable number you can get away with that. When you got 2, I think you may be pushing your luck there.
But I mean, the guy, he was an actual hobo, and then he started playing blues music with his 3-string guitar in his box that he stamped on for percussion, and he's become, you know, this massive superstar at the age of whatever he is, 60 odd, which is fucking impressive. I suppose the other prominent blues band at the minute, we went to see them in February. Now probably it was, is the Black Keys. The support band were Band of Skulls, and me and the missus were like really super excited about them because, you know, they're a cracking band. So we got there nice and early, got a space on the floor, because they were at the arena. I totally didn't realise that the Black Keys were that big these days, but, you know, selling out an arena.
I bought their second album, which, like, is barely in, like, an actual proper CD case. It's, like, almost in paper. You could tell they didn't have any money to make a decent album, like, the packaging-wise, man, but the CD itself was bloody good. Well, I bought that, like, 9 years ago.
I remember when it was just 2 of them, and now we got like a full band and everything. But yeah, we'd watched Band of Skulls. He didn't arrive till after Band of Skulls finished. We were waiting for the Black Keys, and yeah, I can't even remember how we got onto the topic, but we just started like coming up with these stereotypical blues names. I mean, the first one I just went bland, Howlin, Shitbag, which, you know, makes sense. But then we got to everything from like Dribbly Granny Whiskeyfingers and Smokey Uncle Barbecue Sauce to like, I don't know, buck-tooth bastard from Baltimore with wooden teeth and limp.
Baltimore did. For some reason, Baltimore's quite a funny name to throw in.
Baltimore.
Having a limp as well. All of them seem to have limps, or Mr. Johnson, or something like that.
And a lot of them were old, something or other.
The blues as well, with the names like that, it is a music of despair, of heartache and stuff like that. And these guys, you know, they did have interesting names and they had interesting stories. I don't know if you know B.B. King, his famous guitar, Lucille. The guitar was in a house. He'd gone to a house party and a fight had broken out and a fire got started at the house. Some guy had started a fight over this, and somehow a fire got started at his house.
Oh, no.
And he ran back in to get his guitar because it was, you know, his real treasure. And he never really found out what happened, but he found out the name of the girl the fight was started over was called Lucille. And he said that's the only time he's ever really put himself in that much physical danger. So he went in there, got his guitar back, and from that day forth it was called Lucille.
I want to know how 2 guys fighting starts a fire. Fucking hell, I mean, were they both pyromancers or something?
I don't know, like one of them had like beat the other up or something, so it was like, oh, I'm going to get you back sort of thing. So went away, got some like petrol or something, and decided to set the house on fire with people in it. I don't know.
As you do. They should write a blues song about that. I mean, the blues songs are all about that sort of shit, like Mr. Train Blues, or I mean, I could write a 9 Shifts blues. Didn't get no sleep on Saturday because I had Swamp Ass Blues. I love Nick Cave's band Grinder Man have a song called No Pussy Blues. You always know what you're getting with the blues. They don't have ambiguous song titles. They're not like a lot of music these days that try to be really clever and wordplay with their song titles. They're not like fucking Fall Out Boy. These song titles all have like 32 words in them and they're, you know, quotes from Chuck Palahniuk books.
Or Tool, where you like have to play 4 of the songs together, 2 of them backwards and 1 of them at half speed to get the actual real meaning.
Yeah, it's just like, this is my problem. And it's a blues song, so it's, you know, my cat got run over blues, and that's what it's about. I was going to say, it's
usually either about a woman not having any whiskey left, or being beaten by the man.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
So I'm in jail, my woman left me, and I got no whiskey.
That is what happens when you go to jail, generally. You run out of whiskey and women.
I think it's quite universal, because everybody feels sort of down at some point. Everybody's got that sort of, like, slightly pissed off edge to them. Not everybody always wants to listen to sort of hyper-speed thrash or weird electro pop or Nicki Minaj, but I think most people at some point, you know, will have been able to appreciate the blues. And it's not one of those things that it's too inclusive or too exclusive. You can really, you know, you can get a blues band playing at a wedding.
Oh,
or you can get a real, you know, proper blues band that only people are going to go see in the back of some smoky New Orleans whorehouse.
You're right. Everyone from like an upper-class wealthy white man to the poorest black kid on the streets of, you know, Compton can appreciate the blues. It's simple, it's gritty, it doesn't require a lot of talent, but it is intelligent and it's relatable, kind of like us. We've been a couple of cunts in the countryside. If you enjoyed this video, like, favourite, subscribe, share. Check us out on Twitter and on Facebook. If you didn't enjoy this video, I'm going to go and write a song called Unappreciative YouTube Gimp Blues. Feel free to suggest a topic for us to talk about in a future episode. I'll see you next time.
And remember, if you want to learn how to play the blues, you don't have to sell your soul to the devil. All you have to do is drink some whiskey and get depressed.